guys, and welcome to this 9 p.m. special of the IB Stressin Podcast. In our very first episode, we're going to be talking and introducing our five teens who spend $2,800 in IB, and yet their social lives did not appreciate that very much. So we're going to start out with some brief introductions. We're going to begin with Haniya.
Hi, I'm Haniya. I'm a year two IB student. I've been through the hellhole that IB is, but hopefully I have a good amount of insight to offer any potential IB students, any current IB students. Other than that, quick fun fact about me, since we're keeping this anonymous, is that I am super into K-pop, and no one can come for me because this is anonymous. Other than that, say that I've had a good amount of experience with the different aspects of IB. I have a good amount of interest as well. So I have like HL history, HL chem, good amount of knowledge in both. So I hope I can help anyone out in the slightest and that you enjoy this run of episodes. Next person will be Maryam.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Maryam. I'm another one of those social outcasts in IB year two. So I'm here to share my experiences with you guys that I had about IB, and hopefully you guys can derive some lessons for it, take some inspiration, do what you will. A little bit about me, there's really nothing to know about me. I would say that I did have a lot of hobbies and personal interests, but as you can see, I was a part of IB, and hence I have none. So let's move on to the next person, Laila.
Hi, my name is Laila. I'm a U2 IB student, and I am just chaotic. I'm the chaotic energy of this. I think that the most interesting part of me concerning like IB was that I was one of the few kids who actually enjoyed it. So you're gonna get that insight listening to this podcast, which we're very excited for, by the way. You're gonna learn more about me later, but for now, let's go to Ioana.
Okay, hi guys. I'm the host for tonight. I am probably the fourth IB student from that group that's introducing themselves. Well, the interesting thing about me is that I, unlike everyone else in this group, made all the wrong choices in IB. So I think it's really important to know both sides of the story. So you're going to hear their side of the story and about their successes, and you're going to hear about everything that I did wrong that you shouldn't do. But regardless, I did actually enjoy myself because of certain things that you're going to find about later. And yeah, we're going to go on to Iris.
In essence, Ioana is our character foil. So moving on to Iris now.
Hi guys, I'm Iris. I'm your fifth and final year two IB student who is almost finished this horrible experience that has been the last 2 years of my life. So one fact about me is that I've had a pretty big business focus throughout my years of high school. So, for example, with the courses I take and some of the extracurriculars I did, they are with the business focus. So if you're interested in that, then I am your go-to source. And I hope that everyone listening to this gets a little bit of information and a little bit of entertainment, and we're able to keep you guys company on 9 p.m. on Saturdays each week.
All right, so that was it for the brief introductions. Now we're going to go a bit more in depth with some stories from each one of us, where we tell you some of the pains where we have gone through. And Laila is going to start us off.
Okay, so I transferred to White Oaks out of Mississauga, it was out of the region. I came in not knowing anyone. And honestly, I feel like I'm walking out of the school and the program with some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. That was partially because of the trauma that we went through with IB. There's a thing about how when you're in when you're in a hard class or you have a difficult teacher, the class becomes like closer than ever, and that is like absolutely true. Because so IB would have been the hardest class I've ever done.
Literally, without actual like classroom environments or like other friends motivating you to go on, I feel like I would have dropped out back in August.
For sure.
Oh my god, absolutely, yeah. Honestly, like, I remember coming into IB and like, I was a pretty good student. and my grades just dropped. They suffered so badly. I remember just crying. That's a lot of my IB memories, just straight crying and tears, especially because of math, but we will get into that later. And it was like, it was the hardest thing and the worst thing. You're actually gonna get a lot of, like, a range of perspectives concerning IB math. I'm sure if you looked it up, you would, I'm sure if you looked it up, you'd get that as well, but this is going to be exclusive to our school. But gradually, as you go through the program, you get more used to it, you start doing better, you start feeling accomplished and thrive, and making friends.
Like, you know, before getting into, like, the part where the program gets better, I would like to just say that it starts off terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even before you get into it, like, just opening your My Blueprint and then seeing that your planned courses are, like, all IB courses, I swear I had a panic attack just watching,
that hurt.
like, watching it move to, like, grade 11, and they're all IB courses, and I was just so confused. And also just, like, for a lot of people, I think there are, like, certain prospective IB students that have, like, older siblings or friends that are already in the program, so they sort of know what's going on. But, like, me having, like, both my sisters in, like, the AP program in a different school, and me being here, like, all alone in this IB program with, like, no older friends to talk to, I had no idea what was going on. Like, people would ask me,
which is so
like,
rough.
oh, do you know about conversions? And I would be like, what is that?
What?
Like, I have no clue.
And it's, like, a pretty important thing to know about.
It really is.
Kind of the only benefit
I have a different perspective going in the things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so unlike everyone here, I moved to our unknown location from a different continent entirely, different schooling system. I was in, like, the British system. So coming here, I had to adjust to both new environment as well as IB. So I had 1 year before IB to sort of get used to this area in general and the way the school system worked. And then walking into IB, I agree with Maryam, where it was sort of, there was a lot of, I felt like I was almost out of loop with everyone, and everyone was, like, 10 steps ahead of me. Everyone knew about these conversions. Everyone knew about CAS, EE, whatnot. Everyone knew which teachers to reach out to.
Oh my god, IB documents.
Yeah, IB documents. That was a big shock when everyone was somehow finding IB documents. For those of you who are not in IB, is this awesome website with a bunch of past papers and, like, question banks. And we did not know about those until, like, semester 2 of year 1. 10 out of 10 recommend it.
And I would just like to say that I still don't know about any of those things, so some of us just never learned those little
But the good thing, the positives are that we learned from that. And two things, actually. One, we're hoping we can help anyone who listens to this podcast get that insight that we didn't have. And secondly, I'd say that it sort of prepped us for university. A lot of you're not going to be spoon-fed for the rest of your life. So in high school, you're sort of guided through it. But a lot of that independent exploring and that investigating of, like, the program you're choosing preps you for the future, which, as much as I hate IB, I'm going to have to thank them for that, because it does help in the long run.
Oh, honestly. And
anyone else have anything to say?
It's interesting that you brought up, like, being, like, spoon-fed, because I remember coming into just high school in general, they always told us, like, oh, like, the teachers are going to be so difficult, they're not going to care about you, it's all... But even in a program where it's highly, like, independent, and a lot of the things that we do is just independent, the teachers are amazing. Like, obviously you have your bad teachers, but overall, they really care, and it teaches you how to, like, ask for help, and teaches you how to go outside of just the classroom setting and, like, take your own initiative and stuff like that, which, like, is something that a lot of people just don't learn until university, so I'm super grateful that we learned that now.
Yeah. So just to add on to that, like, about teachers, you might feel really alone in the class if you don't know, like, about any of these learning strategies, about anything related to IB, but I'm telling you that these IB teachers know kids that have been through the program, and they've been they've been IB certified for a while usually. So you can always go to them, talk to them about, like, how you should study for IB exams, how you should study for tests within class, and trust me, they will help you. They're here to help you succeed. Like, I don't think they want their class average to be at 37%. Like, SL physics, like, that was not cute,
oh
but
my God.
You know, they're trying to help you succeed. So always be open, always be willing to talk, because they'll be here for you.
And as far as my experience goes, truth be told, I was never a good student. Unlike most of the people who went into the IB program, I actually went into the IB program with not a low average, but not an average that you should go into the IB program with. And the truth is that one thing I want to tell people is to really evaluate and be able to, you know, think about their own capabilities and not just seek academic validation,
Oh my
which
gosh,
is what
that's
I
so
did.
true.
In a sense, I would say that it was because I was more lazy than anything else. So, in any case,
Well,
I did know that I was going to graduate. But at the same time, when I went into the IB program, really, my parents were telling me not to do it. There were some other people who were telling me not to do it, but I still did it out of stubbornness. So you're gonna see how that turned out in some of the later episodes. Not too bad, not to scare you, but it was a pretty interesting experience. So yeah, that is one of the things that I think people should be mindful of before they go into IB.
But honestly, like, you bring up a really important thing, which is that it doesn't matter if you're like a genius, you're the smartest kid in the class. If you don't put in the effort, if you don't have the like persistence and stubbornness to like get through the program and like put in the work and like study and everything like that, you're not going to get through. It doesn't actually matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter if like previously you struggled, because Ioana is proof that when you put in the work, Ioana's smart already, but when you put in the work, you're going to excel. And that's honestly, that's all it's dependent on.
It goes the other way too, honestly. I've seen a lot of really bright people who otherwise would be getting 99s, hundreds in the past come into IB and rely on that natural intelligence to excel. And that simply is not the way it works. So you can't rely on that natural intelligence, because the point of IB is to evoke that sense of critical thinking and get you to think deeper than surface level just memorization and like regurgitating information on tests, which is both a negative and a positive, because as a person you sort of want to have those critical thinking skills. You want to be questioning things around you, want to be thinking, asking those deeper questions. But as a student in high school, you don't necessarily want to be treated like a university student, expected
True.
to
That is true.
be learning at a pace that you're not used to. But I think it's good to know that before going in. If anyone here is thinking about IB and you're sort of like, oh, I have 100 in grade 11 functions, 100%, like I will excel in this course, in this SL course, this SL math course. That is unfortunately not how that works, because the IA will come in and you simply will not be able to memorize a few formulas and move on from there.
Yeah, so I'm just going to speak a little bit on what Haniya said about, people coming in and realizing that their natural intelligence is enough to carry them through. I think a little bit similar to what Laila talked about. Another potential benefit of IB that you can gain is that in IB, to be successful, you have to critically evaluate what works best for each course, because in some courses, for example, chemistry, you need to memorize a lot of things. Just a core understanding of the concepts isn't enough to get you good marks, because of all the equations and the calculations and all the salts and polyatomic ions you have to memorize. And then, for example, in English or econ, it's more important to have a good understanding of the concepts, because you're going to need to expand on them and evaluate them critically. I can say this with full confidence as someone who studied for 3 days before my year 1 chemistry exam and did not get more than I did not get a good mark. I'm not going to reveal the exact number here, but it was definitely not above a 70. So that was a very disappointing experience. And like now I realize that like there's a good way to study for chemistry, and it's improved my mark a lot. So that's a benefit you can get from IB, but you have to recognize that a lot of the benefits in IB you can only gain if you're really striving to get those benefits. Like if you're just staying passive, you really can't get as much out of the program as you really can.
That's so true. And I think with like talking about positives and negatives of being an IB, I think we should also talk about who IB is good for. Like, because some people think that, if you're not like the next Einstein, you're not joining IB. But I'm telling you that if you are Einstein and you're succeeding like in academic programs, maybe stick to academic. Maybe, you know what? Maybe academic is right for you, you know, if you're doing well in it. But if you want to really challenge yourself, then join IB. But also, there's a lot of people that were actually struggling in the academic program. If you're getting like, you know, 50s or 60s or lower and you're not happy with that in academic, then I'm telling you, IB conversions are your Lord and Savior. Like, they will pull through. They will
agreed
save you. Because
It really is.
and especially like I didn't know anything about IB. My sister was
like
in
a
IB.
60.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
My sister was in IB.
No,
I know we were talking about like how like Maryam, you didn't have any guidance. My sister was in IB, but I still walked into it not knowing anything about IB documents, not knowing anything about conversions. So me getting like a 70 on like I don't know what it was, like a geography test, and being like distraught because I'd never really gotten a 70 in geography before, and then learning about conversions, like that was my birthday. That was basically my birthday because it was just such a nice feeling.
I had a lot of 70s in geography in grade 9 because I didn't care enough to study, and I still chose to go into the IB. And that's like another point that I want to bring up because I think that we're just, you know, in this like line of thought that we're going through, you know, natural intelligence versus actual studying. It's really important to focus on the subject that you can do, because what the IB is striving to do is make you a well-rounded student. So you technically have to take a subject from every area. However, it's really important to still filter those things. For example, even if you think that you're really good at math, and some people really were. I know people who are getting high 90s in math before they got into IB. But still, HO math isn't necessarily for them because it requires a different type of thinking and a different level of thinking. So you really have to be mindful of that. Or the sciences, you have to take a science. But let's say you're not a very science-oriented person, take an easier science that doesn't require a lot of math and memorization, but just simply something that you can understand for yourself and make it easier for you. There's that balance that you can still create.
Yeah, so when you're going into IB, I think one thing that you should be doing is probably looking into what the courses that you're taking are actually about. Because if you think you're going into HL math, for example, thinking that it's going to be just a lot of math, you're kind of wrong, because there's also a lot about like, you know, theories and like maybe deriving formulas or things that in academic programs aren't very, you know, you wouldn't describe them as math to you necessarily. So make sure you're looking into what your courses are about. For example, in SL math, there's a lot of data management, there's calculus, there's some advanced functions, but you're not going to get a complete you know, bundle of advanced functions and calculus as you would in academic. So make sure you're researching the courses you're taking, which is a mistake that I think every single one of us made.
Oh, 100%. It didn't even cross my mind to like look into the actual courses.
I made that mistake. With the sciences too, there's no shame in taking an easier math. Like if your school offers easier math, take the easier math if you've been getting bad grades. You don't, you know, stubbornness can only take you this far. It took me quite far. I mean, it seems like I might get that diploma after all, but it's not gonna take me far in the sense that it's gonna make me an actual like successful student with a lot of IB points. So, you know, it's still like stubbornness, but you got to think about it too.
Yeah, and there's also, you know, the math studies memes, the geography memes, but you know what? Everyone's going to laugh about it in the end. If you're part of the joke, if you are the victim of the joke, you know, laugh along. Everyone's struggling.
And actually, this brings up a really like important point of, we wanted to talk about like the atmosphere of doing IB. It's a really, really competitive program. But it shouldn't be. We're not competing against each other. We're competing against our own merits and our own skills. And so, like, the whole idea, like, what you're talking about, how, don't, like, compare yourself to other people and like put yourself down because you're taking an easier math or whatever, that's so true, because they are doing their own, like other people are taking their own path. Everything that you're doing, don't measure up to other people. I remember that like in grade 11 I was taking biology, and I am no means a biology student, and so I remember I was like comparing myself against these kids who had an aptitude for it, and I was like, why am I not doing as well as them? Like, it was a worse year. But now I started taking history, and I'm amazing at history, to be honest. Like, that was my focus, that was where I excelled, and it was like, and only in second year did I realize, oh, like, don't compare yourself against other people. It's literally only your path, your focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to speak a little bit on what Laila said about like how history being her course. I think it's so important to have at least one course per quad per semester now, or per year, that you really enjoy and you really feel like
Absolutely.
you excel at. Because as someone who has been through semesters where it's been a very rough time, like I was failing all of the courses I was doing simultaneously, that takes a really big toll on your like self-esteem. And then, like, for example, I was doing chemistry and econ, and I wasn't doing too well in econ. I was doing decent in econ, but I was not doing well in chemistry. Like I said, chemistry is not my strongest suit, and it takes a big toll on your self-esteem. But then, you know, I improved in econ, and so I'm an econ baddie now. And now I'm like 100% confident in myself. I'm also graduating, so like that's probably a part of it. You know, I have no fears anymore. I have 3 fears. But yeah, so try to have at least one course that you're really confident in for your self-esteem, so you don't break down.
If that's good enough, like if you're good enough at one thing, you know, go with it. Maybe make that your career. Even if it's like something like, you know, history doesn't seem like something you may have a career in, but if it's motivating you to go forward, you know what? That's your own achievement. If you're getting a level 7 in history and you're getting a level 4 in math, that doesn't make you a bad student. It just means that you're better at some subjects and you're worse at others, and that's fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
No one's good at everything. Well, you know. I'm not good at everything.
It's actually really at one point. It's actually really funny because at one point I think I did have a level 7 in history and a level 4 in math. Like, no joke. I think at a point in time,
I called half our program
genuinely
out right here.
Literally, like, and then just working off of that, I'm someone who didn't excel at one subject specifically. I was sort of like, and I was getting the same grades and everything. So I'd say there are different ways of going at it. Because for me, if I was doing well in one subject, I'd sort of focus on that, and I would rely on that for validation, you know, get really dependent on that teacher's validation too, and then neglect my other subjects. I think it's important to say that if you're not doing well in a subject right now, doesn't mean you're bad at it. It might just be you're not learning correctly. So as Iris mentioned, with chemistry, like there's a very specific way you need to learn. So for me, that subject was maybe, I'll say bio. Like I ended bio with a 7, and by no means was I getting those grades at the beginning. I think I got a 4 on the first bio quiz, and that trend continued for a while. Mm-hmm. First bio lab, and I think I got a 3, like even a 3, like a genuine 3. And then one day I was like, wait, why am I doing this? Because I was doing well in English. I was like, why, like, what, forget bio? Like, who cares about bio? I'm doing well in this class. Then I realized I can't live this way, and then I decided to look into studying habits, change my ways, and then I became a bio baddie. So bio baddies, you could be a bio baddie. The point is, before I start rambling again, that to not sell yourself short just because you're not doing well the first few weeks of a course, because you could secretly be insert course name here baddie and not know it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when you're going into IB, be flexible, because you're going to have to change a lot of your study habits. A lot of the study habits that I had, like, I think it's only for specific courses. Like for the sciences, definitely changed. Writing out your notes over and over again, that might work in the academic program, but it's not going to work in the sciences for IB. I think a better study method would probably be going through the question banks, reading the textbook, because I think you need to remember that this is a standardized testing program. So a lot of it is going to be like word for word from the textbook. So study the things that IB gives you or that are IB related, and that'll be more helpful to you.
And so, okay, we've covered a lot, but I think that to stay in tune with our focus for today, how did everyone's social lives go? I want to say that I was pretty introverted coming into this, but there were surprises. Anyways, how did it go?
Who wants to start their depressing story? I don't.
I can start if we're okay with that. So, me, as someone who does talk a lot, I surprisingly did not have friends. I'd say literally until November 2020. So I came here grade 10 and I did not know anyone. Grade 10 goes by, I'm like, okay, whatever. Grade 10, first year adjustment period, it's okay. Grade 11 rolls by. I again was like, it's like if you were an outsider looking in, you'd be like, yeah, of course she has friends. She's always so loud in class, like talking to everyone around her.
Can confirm
I'd
that
be
is what
eating
I
my
thought.
lunch. Yeah,
Can
literally, I'd
confirm
be eating
too.
my lunch alone
Can
in like the
confirm.
North
I was scared
Calf.
of Haniya. Can confirm.
I thought she had so many friends, but yeah, continue.
No, I'd be eating my lunch alone, and that's why I was on top of my work. I was like, if girls stay distracted, she no think about no friends. So that was my mindset going in. So I'd work. I'd spend my entire lunch period volunteering at the library and then studying, and I'd eat my lunch in the library with the librarian, which is so lame. But love the librarian. Don't want to expose her name, but love her. And so yeah, so the point of that sad background is that I had no social life obviously going in, but surprisingly, IB gave me a social life. So I have these guys here in this podcast. So IB has a really you develop this really good sense of community, I think. So yes, there's a group of those toxic people obsessed with getting into the Ivy League or like whatever the Canadian Ivy League equivalent is, Mac Healthsci, I guess, Mac Healthsci, Waterloo Eng. You have those people, but then you also have genuine people who are there to support you and support each other and just want to graduate IB with you.
Yep.
And so I'd say going in, it actually boosted my social life. Like I was able to actually make friends, genuine friends, not anything superficial. I no longer would eat if we were in person. I would not be eating my lunch alone. Fingers crossed. So that's my experience with IB. So it did boost my social life. Can't say the same for anyone who wasn't a loser before grade 12.
Well, that's definitely a unique perspective. But okay, which social outcast wants to talk next? Go for it, Ioana.
Go, Ioana.
I was also a loser before grade 11. I think the idea with us Ivy kids is that we didn't have much of a social life to begin with. So we weren't necessarily sad when we entered IB. We knew that was going to take our mind off of things, and we knew that, we wouldn't suffer as much. I really did want to improve my social life. I tried to, fake it till I make it. I thought, I tried to give the impression of someone who wasn't a loser, but it just, sometimes you make it, some days you make it,
because
sometimes you don't make it.
throughout all years of high school, thought that Ioana was the baddest bee in the room. Literally
Ioana
the
was the
person.
coolest person ever. Her fashion, I was like,
Her
it
humor?
is literally, Louis Vuitton Fashion Week when she walks in. It was everything to me.
Okay, guys, thanks for those lies. They really did the most for my
being
confidence.
genuine.
I love you, but regardless, it wasn't. I had a decent amount of friends. I wouldn't say
Me?
no. I mean, I was a loser, but not a loser without friends. I
was
did
the
have
number
friends.
one member of her fan club.
To a moderate extent, she was a loser.
I mean, yeah, but even with IB, I think if you manage it properly, this whole myth that you're not gonna have a social life in IB is not true. That's a myth debunked. And the truth is that people who think that, they think it because the people who go into IB, the type of people who go into IB, aren't the type of people to want a social life to begin with. That's the reason they don't have social lives. But the thing is,
I wanted to
if
say
I
you
disagree with
do
that.
want
I disagree with
a
that.
social
No,
life,
I disagree with that.
if you do want a social life, you can maintain one. I know people who did like 3 extracurriculars, had a job, went to birthday parties, did all their work, and got good grades. It's not impossible, even though it may sound like it. But they're really, and I guess it depends on the school that you attend as well and how they accommodate for your issues and whatnot. But it is not true what you hear about the fact that you're not gonna have any friends and you're not gonna go to parties. Be assured you're gonna be okay.
And I think that like all that comes down to, and this is some advice that I got from people who had already been in IB, like my sister, for example, and also like year 12s when we were in year 11. Yes, it could be time consuming, and you might not go out or socialize as much as you want to, but that's only if you let IB take over your life to that point. Like I know if there's like a test coming up or like a huge project or IAs or EEs, like it's gonna eat up your time. But that being said, you can always make time to socialize, and we did that without even realizing it. When we were in school, we would hang out during lunch, and even if we were doing work together, we were socializing, we were having fun. We would find little moments to be chaotic during class and talk and like mess with the program a little bit. And like if you plan out a day, like I know for now I'm like, okay, every Friday I'm not gonna do work. Or honestly, that wasn't much of a decision. It was more like I don't end up doing work on Fridays anyways, and so I allocated that day to like going out and socializing. And just like that, I had a social life, even though I'm like doing this like crazy program. Maryam?
I think just to speak on like the fact that you use your lunch breaks to study and hence you're socializing, talking to IB people and stuff. I just remember being like split between my academic friends and like my IB friends.
Mm-hmm.
I literally remember dragging a chair between 2 tables and sitting like in the middle of them and like turning around to talk to my academic friends in the library for like a couple minutes and then turning back to like study bio and then like turning back again. And I was just like,
okay, yeah, Maryam was famous. Maryam had many friends. It's true, like Maryam has the type of person who has like a lot of friends. She's also pretty cute too, so I guess like you can account for that being a reason for why she's so famous. But
guys,
yeah,
I don't know. Ioana has my heart right now, so I'm not looking. But but yeah, there was the internal struggles that you have like with your academic friend group, and then you're like dealing with drama, and then you're like, wait, but I have like an English test. Can we like pause the drama so I can go study for my test? I could not balance like 2 groups, and it was really sad because I also couldn't like mix those 2 groups together because we had different tastes, we had different like ideas of how we wanted to go about our lunch period or our day, and yeah, it was pretty stressful, like on top of the idea of studying as well. So I would not recommend, but also there isn't really anything you could do.
I mean, with all of those things that we just mentioned, you can make your own decisions about what IB is like, but just as an introductory episode, I think we've reached the limit of what we can say. Truth be told, this is just to give you an intro into what IB we felt like was going to be for us. And from this point on, we're going to get into the actual experience of what IB, was actually like. And not just what we thought it was going to be like, which is it's a bit of a painful experience for us to go through to go back to. But as for today's episode, thank you for tuning in, and be sure to do that again next week. And we're gonna see you then. Thank you.